Welcome to the REI Foundation Podcast, where we cover all the steps and strategies to make your real estate dreams a reality. Now your hosts, Jason and Peely.
Hello and welcome everybody to the REI Foundation Podcast with Jason and Peely. Today we have Kevin Bupp.
Welcome, Kevin. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Peely and Jason, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
So Kevin is an incredible real estate investor who's focused on many different platforms throughout his investing time and is currently doing amazing in the mobile home park niche. Currently has over 1,000 pads under management and is pushing to have 10,000 by tomorrow, shortly. Next week?
5 years. Yeah, tomorrow would be a little aggressive. I thought 5 years was aggressive enough, but
okay. Fair enough.
I wish tomorrow. Tomorrow.
So Kevin, how did you get started in real estate?
Yeah, so I'll take you guys back a little bit back in time. I'm 38 today, and I got started right out, kind of about a year out of high school, and I was
today or just 38 as in
no, not today.
Okay.
March. Okay. I think March 13th. I forget my age sometimes. Now as I get older, actually I miss years. Sometimes I think I'm older, sometimes I think I'm younger. But yeah, I'm 38. Not today, but March 13th, I'll be 39. But I was and I know people tell these kind of stories all the time, but I really was a horrible high school student. I mean, I didn't care about school. I didn't do good at all. I wasn't good with the conventional learning system or teaching system that our schools have. And I didn't know that until after many years down the road after high school. But I mean, I literally barely graduated. I graduated with a 1.8 GPA. I mean, literally 1.7 was the threshold. I had a 1.8, and so I barely graduated, and I didn't really have the opportunity to go away to school like a lot of my friends were. And plus, I knew I would have wasted my parents' money. If I'd have gone away, I would have partied and probably gotten kicked out the first semester. So it wouldn't have worked out too well for me. So I did what any stay-at-home guy does after he graduates high school. He goes to community college, and I went to community college with no direction whatsoever, and just was kind of working through the motions, not knowing what I wanted to do. Didn't really have much drive. I knew I wanted to do something bigger. I just had no idea what it was. And I was tending bar and going to school, just having fun with it, hanging out on the weekends, hanging out in the evenings, whatever you do when you're a college student and a bartender. And wasn't really going anywhere with life. And I got really lucky when I was 19. I was dating a girl at the time. And her mother had recently been divorced, and she was dating a guy, had a boyfriend, and his name was David. And David, just long story short, I was introduced to David. He was about 20 or so years older than I, maybe about 25 years older than I. And David was a local real estate investor, and that's what he did full time, in single family properties and multifamily properties. And I always thought it was kind of odd that I'd go visit my girlfriend during the day between classes or whatever, and David would be sometimes around her mom's house. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? You're an adult. Shouldn't you be at your job, right? And that's how I found he was an investor. He's like, no, I own property. I don't really have a real job. And I didn't know what that really meant because my parents were both, they worked 9 to 5s, normal jobs. And that's all I ever really knew. And basically I got stuck one day. I got stuck one day out on a boat with David. I owned a boat. My brother and I had a boat at the time. Summertime, we'd go out on the boat and go up the river and just have fun, water skiing, wakeboard and all that. And one day I got stuck on the boat with David, but I invited my friends out and they kind of bailed on me. And David was like, I'll go. I'm like, well, it's kind of weird, but okay, let's go out on the boat. And I got to know David really well that day. And he actually, long story short, he invited me to a real estate boot camp in Philadelphia because he probably saw that there was a struggling 19-year-old in front of him that had no direction in life. And he was probably offering me life support at that point. I didn't see it as that, but now that I look back, that's kind of what was happening. And he invited me to this 3-day boot camp. It was a Ron LeGrand boot camp. If you guys have ever heard of Ron LeGrand, He's still around today, I think, teaching. But it was on how to wholesale and also fix and flip homes. And I did that and met a bunch of people during that 3-day boot camp and that were making a lot of money. And I still didn't know what they were doing, really. I didn't fully understand it, didn't know about real estate. But I was like, if these guys can do it, I mean, if I could only just do one a year, I would make 3 times what I'm making bartending, right? If I just flipped one house. And that's I left there with the idea that I'm going to do this. It's something I can at least grab a hold of. I got it. It was exciting. And also David was someone that had become a friend of mine. And I knew that if I needed help, he'd be there to help me. And so I literally went and asked him if I could literally follow him around for however long I needed. Literally, I'll do everything he needed me to do for him. In between classes, in between tending bar, I would literally be his servant, just so that I could learn as much as I could about the business. That's what happened. I followed him around for a year. And before I ended up buying my first property, bought a single family home in a really rundown section of town in Pennsylvania, where I grew up. And that was like the introduction to like investing for me, like buying my first property. It was just a really rough area. I probably still wouldn't buy one there today. It was a really bad mistake. I made money on it, but it was just rough, really rough, bad tenant base. And bought that first rundown property, continued from there forward, buying single family homes for about 4.5 to 5 years, mostly for long-term rental. We did fix and flip a few, and we wholesaled a few when we had to. But really, he'd always taught me long-term passive income. So I kind of have always just followed that philosophy from the start, and would sell or fix and flip or wholesale something when I needed more capital. And I got introduced to multifamily when I was about 25 years old. Started buying multifamily properties, mostly smaller stuff. 76 units was the largest one that we owned, and then fast forward to 2008, lost mostly everything in the crash. And took a couple years off of real estate, built a couple other businesses, got back into real estate late 2010, early 2011. And at that point, mobile home parks became my focus. And so from that point to today, mobile home parks have been 99% of my focus. And I say 99% because I still own a few other properties, single family homes. I had a commercial property and a multifamily property and things like that. But 99% of our focus is mobile home parks. So that's the long and short of it.
What a story.
That is a story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. There's so much there.
So there's a lot that we can touch on, but we'd love to track back to your mentor, David, because that's just an incredible story. It goes on a point here is that you basically had someone who was offering you help, but he wasn't giving it to you. He wasn't reaching out and just passing it on there. You went out and offered help for a year, and you did stuff, anything you could just to help him out. And that honestly set you on your journey. So for people out there who maybe just I want to find a mentor. Well, where can you offer help to? And that's probably
absolutely. Yeah, no, I can promise you that it was, there was points in time where I questioned why I was even, doing it. Because I would get off, I'd 10 bar. I'd get home at like 1 a.m. He was an early bird. Like I never understood how he'd like wake up automatically without even setting an alarm at like 5 a.m. So he was starting his office day at like 7:30. And he expected me. He works from his home office. He expected me to be there, when he got his day started. And then a lot of times I'd have to leave for a few hours, go to class, come back, and then go back to the bar at like 5 p.m. and then working. So like it was crazy. It was challenging at times, and my friends would make fun of me, like, "Why are you hanging out with that old guy?" I'm like, "Shut up, guys! You don't even know what's going. Like, leave me alone." Like, I'm learning a ton, and I questioned why I was doing it for a couple of months. Is this going to turn into anything? And I'm glad I stuck with it. I'm glad he had faith in me, and really, it really is a blessing, seriously, because a lot of people are looking for mentors, and I wasn't looking for. So I really consider myself incredibly lucky because I don't know where I would be in life. I honestly don't know where I would be in life, what I'd be doing if it wasn't for David, because I had no interest in real estate. I'd never picked up a real estate book, and it definitely wasn't on my radar at all. So I give David, so much gratitude. Just every week, every month, I talk to him and just let him know how grateful I am that he came into my life, because I wouldn't know where I'd be without him. So.
That's just amazing how the universe kind of just opens up.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. Yeah.
Puts you on that path. And if you actually are open to it and you listen and you follow that path,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at where you are today. That's amazing, amazing story.
And you talk about that one property that you probably wouldn't buy today, but that was, you had to buy that property because that was your start. So it's almost better. What you don't know, you don't know. It's you got.
It's funny. I always give him crap about it. I said, "Why'd you let me buy that junk hole? Come on! Like there would have been so many better properties to buy than that one. Why'd you let me buy that one?"
Yeah, right. He's like, "Well, you got to set your own path."
Yeah, that's it. You need the crash course. There it was.
And another key point you made is that this is attainable, and it is hard. So people listen are like, well, Kevin has 1,000 pads. Well, Kevin started with one house in Pennsylvania, and it is obtainable, but you're not ultimately going to go out there and flip 200 homes a year or wholesale 300 houses a year. You have to set up the system. And for this point, you set up your learning process and you set up your system. You start with one houses, and now you've made the transition to mobile home parks. What really stands out to you that you said this is the direction that we want our business to go?
You know why? 2007, 2008 was a really rough time for me. I mean, I'd never been through a downturn before because when I got involved in real estate, it was the roller coaster was riding up the hill, right? And so that's all I knew. I didn't really know any different. And 2008 was just a really challenging time. We lost most of the real estate we had. It was down here in Southwest Florida, which was kind of ground zero. And it was just a complete catastrophe. It was a mess. And just trying to stay with my head above water, I mean, was a struggle each and every day. So I took 2 years off. I just really didn't even want to think about real estate, which was the wrong thing to do. Now that I look back, I wish I would have just, stuck my head up high and recapitalized because I missed a lot of opportunities during those times, but it's okay. I started a few other businesses that were health and fitness related, which is a big part of my life. But that wasn't really all that. It was fulfilling from a personal side, but from a monetary side, it really wasn't. And it wasn't going to get me to where I needed to be or get me back to where I wanted to be. And real estate, I still had such a love for it. And I knew that monetarily it could help me reach those goals as well. And so sometime in 2010, I really started reflecting, I actually started thinking back on what went wrong. I mean, I tried just to shove it off in the back of my mind and lock it away, what had just happened. And I started reflecting on my business, what was wrong with it, what I could have changed. If I could go back again and go through that downturn again, what would I have done differently? And what I realized is I had 122 at the time of the crash. I had 122 single family homes, and I had just under 500 multifamily properties. Multifamily properties, I had lots of partners in and things like that. But the single family homes are really, when I look back, those are the ones that drug me down. They were very inefficient to manage. We owned them in 4 different counties. I mean, just the inefficiencies of having property management, maintenance guys and such going back and forth, driving from property to property. The turns on those things are so expensive. It was a very inefficient model, and it was hard to scale. It was incredibly hard to scale buying more properties. I mean, the effort that we put into buying 122, or I put into buying 122 properties, I could have probably had 1,000 multifamily properties or more than that for the same effort. And so when I look back, I realized that single family homes I definitely was not going to buy any more of those. It just took too long to build. And I wasn't even married back then. I didn't have kids back then. Now I do. I'm I don't have time for that again. It's too inefficient. And multifamily I was my multifamily properties, they survived. A couple of them struggled. I mean, a couple of them had debt terms that came due, and we had some banks that worked with us and such. But we had to sell our multifamily properties at the bottom of the market, which was the wrong time because we just needed money. We were broke. And we had to exit out of them at the wrong time and just to kind of save face. But getting back into it, I look back and said, multifamily is the way to go. It allowed me to scale. I could scale much greater, much faster, much greater than what I had before, and get back to where I was in a very short period of time. And so multifamily was going to be the route I took. And so I was out basically, 2011 was a different time than what 2005 or 6 was. I mean, it was a different world. Everything had changed. Lending had changed. The opportunities that were out there had changed. Even the people that were in the business were different, right? There's all these new investors. A lot of the old guys like me had fallen off the face of the earth and they never came back again. And so I was out there just talking to everyone I possibly could, having meetings with everyone that was in the multifamily space that was local to me in the Tampa Bay area or within a 2-hour distance, that was actively buying multifamily properties. And during this search, during this time of information gathering, I was introduced to a guy that was in the mobile home park space. I had no interest in mobile home parks, knew what they were, but just had never really considered it as an investment choice, and had lunch with him. And after that 2-hour lunch, I walked away with the decision that I was going to give mobile home parks, that asset class, I was going to give it 1 year to see what I could make happen. And the things that he had just kind of mentioned to me during that 2-hour lunch, he wasn't trying to sell me on it. He just said, hey, here's why I like it. Here's why I've been in it for the last 30 some odd years. And it just made sense. And so that was the start of it. And that's where we are today. And so there's multiple things in mobile home parks that are very unique in the asset class that don't exist in any of the other asset classes that are out there today. And if you'd like, I'd be more than happy to share those with you.
That we sure would. We'd love to. We'd love to go back to that lunch and just what really stood out to you. You said, okay, this is my direction.
Yeah, first and foremost, I mean, we all know that there's an affordable housing crisis in the United States, right? So we can all agree with that's the case. And I know you guys deal in B and C apartments. And so you're already serving that niche to a certain extent. Mobile home parks kind of fall within that same parameter of serving the affordable housing need that's out there. So we all know that exists, right? So that's one big thing. But the second big thing that really piqued my interest, he said, Kevin, they're not building these anymore. He said it's the only commercial asset class that has a diminishing supply. They're building self-storage, they're building multifamily everywhere. They're building retail, they're building office, they're building everything else. They are not building more mobile home parks. In fact, it's decreasing in numbers each and every year. So although there might be a few built each year, there's definitely way more that are being shut down or torn down for higher and better use. So that was one of the big things, that there's this massive barrier to entry that I buy a park in a great market. I don't have to worry about a developer coming in and building one right down the road. So really unique barrier to entry. One of the other big components of it that really piqued my interest was the turnover rate is much lower. And that most of the people that live in these communities own their own home. And it's very expensive to move one of those homes. In fact, a single wide can cost anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 to move it, and then another couple grand to reset it back up in another lot. And so most people that live in a mobile home park, most of them, at least the parks we cater to, they don't have 5, 6, 7, 8 grand laying around to move their home to another park. And so the turnover is very minimal. In fact, most of the time, once a home goes in, it never comes out. And if it gets sold, they just sell it to someone else that wants to move into that community. So your turn is very, very minimal. Whereas in an apartment, this isn't to put down apartments because I've owned them and I love them, but you could put your mattress on the roof and put your clothes in your backpack, and you could be out of there in the middle of the night if you want. And it doesn't really work that way with a mobile home park. It's not that easy for them just to get up and go. And then on top of that, the management intensity can be much less in a mobile home park. So if you don't own any of the homes, which is the preferred method that we like, is to not own any of the homes, although we do own a few hundred of them. But if you don't own any of the homes, then you're not maintaining air conditioners, roofs, plumbing, or anything like that. Your only upkeep and only requirement from being an owner, property owner, is the infrastructure of the park. So the water and sewer lines and the roads and the common areas. That's really your only maintenance and upkeep. So you're not having the turns, you're not having, roofing issues or maintenance calls in the middle of the night. And so it's kept very minimal, meaning that we could easily manage a 150 space property with one part-time manager. Amazing. Which is, literally 20 hours a week. That park is managed quite well. So there's multiple other things that we like about it, but one of the other big things is returns. I mean, it's funny, we're actually seeing a lot of people that are coming from the multifamily space that would have probably turned their nose up to mobile home parks 3 years ago that are now looking at this asset because of the returns. I mean, whereas you might be looking at 5 caps in certain markets in the US for multifamily, in that same market, you could probably buy a park at a 7 cap. And so the yield spreads are much greater as far as returns are concerned. So we typically are looking for, when we buy a park, we're looking for going in, we want to know in the first year that we can achieve a levered 20% cash on cash return. That's our metric that we hit, that we need to hit. And we do it quite often. And we have a few parks that are much higher than that. So a lot of these parks are owned by old mom and pops. They haven't really treated it like a business, just like Jason, like the 94 unit that you guys bought, owned by a mom and pop type operation. They haven't really maximized the value. They haven't raised rents in years. They just haven't done a good job. They haven't treated it like a real business. There's a lot of parks that we bought are just like that. We go in and we just treat them like a business, and we run them like a professional, and bring rents up to market and add a ton of value to them. So there's lots of opportunities out there like that in this space.
Wow. In a year, 20% cash on cash return. That's, let me wrap my brain around that.
Yeah, it's pretty aggressive.
Yeah. Wow.
But it's not too hard. I mean, again, we look at a lot of deals. So I don't want anyone that's listening to this show to think like you can just go out there and pluck them off LoopNet and get 20% cash on cash returns. In fact, most stuff you'll find on LoopNet is never going to hit that. It's probably overpriced. That's probably why it's on LoopNet. Same with a few of the other listing sites for mobile home parks. But we do a lot of direct mail campaigns. We do a lot of cold calling. We know our markets really well. We know who the owners are. We know what their rents are. We know which ones have a ton of upside, and we kind of just watch. We wait and watch, and we stay in touch with these owners, and we know which ones have those opportunities present, meaning that once we buy it, we know that we can achieve that number. But we've got a few parks, actually. Again, these are anomalies, but we own a few parks that, and these with normal leverage, I'm talking with like 25 and 30% leverage in place, get 50 and 60% cash on cash returns annually. It's just ridiculous.
It's amazing, yeah,
because they weren't run properly. We came in and saved the day.
Wow.
Now, if you were to say there was a size, do you find that the properties you're searching for is there areas that work better? Is there demographics? Is there median household numbers that work great? Are there just size of the parks in general that are really a focus? That if someone was saying that, okay, this sounds very intriguing, what would be some day one metrics that people could search for to find maybe towns or areas that may be a good focus for them?
Yeah, so mobile home parks work in smaller markets than what you guys might be looking at for apartments. But so like our typical scenario is we look for metros that have at least a population of 100K or greater. And that's not a big metro at all. That's a fairly small metro. But we look for other things just like you guys do as far as stable employment. We don't want any one-horse towns where majority of the employment is made up of 1 or 2 or 3 employers. Like we want it very diverse. We want to know that there's a demand for affordable housing. So we look for the median home price. We want to know that that's over $100,000. That way we know we're not competing with stick-built homes. And then we'll also look at what apartment rents are. We want to know that we'll look at like what the average rent for like a studio or a 1-bedroom is. And we want to know that, kind of like the rule of thumb for lot rents, that what you should be able to push it to in a particular market. And this doesn't always hold true, but it should be about half of what a studio apartment would rent for. And so there's some markets that are just really, really inexpensive to live in, to where there's already enough affordable housing. There might be apartments that someone could live in for $400 a month. And our mobile home park being half that's not really going to bode too well for us. So we'll steer clear of those types of markets. But unemployment rate under 7% is kind of what we're looking for. What else here? What else? Oh, another simple rule of thumb that we do is we literally get on Google Earth. The good thing about mobile home parks is they're pretty easy to identify when you look at an aerial. And so we'll look and we'll just look at the trends in that market. We'll look at all the other, we already have all the mobile home parks database in most parts of at least the eastern half of the U.S., the markets that we prospect in. And so we'll look and see, what's the occupancy? I mean, you can easily gauge the occupancy just by looking at the number of units in a park. If you see a lot of empty pads and all the other parks in town, that makes us question it. So we'll make some phone calls to the parks themselves, find out what rents they have or what lots they have available. Are people moving in? What's kind of the clientele that they have there? Why they have so many empties? Just ask questions like that, figure out what's really happening in that market. But a lot of times there's a reason why you'll find markets that have most of the parks that have a lot of vacancies in them. And even if the stats look good from our research, we try to find the underlying reason. We'll steer clear of those markets because there's obviously something going on that isn't positive and will have a negative impact on the park business. So, but what else? What else do we look for? That's mostly it, I think. Yeah,
that's funny. So, that if you're looking at your business as a whole right now, what is something that you and your team are focusing on to improve within your business? Because you guys have a huge macro level of hitting 10,000 pads, you're at 1,000. So as you transition, what is something that you're working to improve in your system?
Yeah, it's funny. It's what we've been working on for the past 6 months. We've got 6 more. We're about to add about another 600 pads to our portfolio here in the next 2 months. And we've been working feverishly to put the standard operating procedures in place and really systematize our business, all the different departments in our business. I mean, it's myself and 2 other principal partners, and we have a few admin that work for us as well. But I mean, we wear a lot of hats. And so we're really trying to define what those hats look like so that we can bring in people as necessary so that we can scale our business and truly absorb additional parks as we buy them. Right now, our infrastructure is good and it can manage what we have in contract. But if we were to literally double in size in the next 2 years, we would implode. And so we've been proactively working to just really map out our property management company. So that's one thing with this business, we can't outsource it to a third-party company like you guys do in the multifamily space. That's probably what scares a lot of people away from it. You have to go vertical with your management. You have to build a property management company, which is a complete separate business, right? I mean, it's a completely separate business model. And so we're really putting a lot of efforts into our property management company. For example, a lot of the vendors that work in our parks, a lot of those guys, they need paid right away. They can't wait to get payment. It has to be an efficient process. And right now, between the parks we own, is getting a little inefficient. So we're getting set up with vendors that allow us to, they can be set up and then we can literally hit a button and have them paid, literally have money in their checking account through ACH. In a matter of, 4 hours or something like that. So we can get them paid immediately. So we're systemizing the process of their invoice going inside our rental management software and also have a plugin or an application plugged into where we can get them paid absolutely immediately once that gets approved, that invoice gets approved. Some of the other things that we're doing is, even just on the lead flow process. right now I'm the acquisitions guy. Like I handle all the front end lead flow, and we do manage it in the CRM system, and we keep it as organized as possible. But in order for us to scale and to bring in, another 1,000 lots a year, it needs to be dialed in a lot more. And so we're building out a customized lead flow process through Podio right now on the front end of our business that will integrate our voice over IP calling system, that will also integrate a few other technology apps that we use, like Slide Broadcast, which helps us dial out to people and leave voicemails as follow-ups. Our database is fairly large. We've got like 7,000 parks in our database that we prospect to. Wow. And so we need to make that process more efficient. We're getting that Podio system set up also to where we can literally do our direct mail campaigns without having to keep it in-house. We used to have literally handwriters, sit there and writing, and we'd hire someone to write them. And it's just inefficient when you want to send out 7,000 at a time. So now we'll have mail houses that will literally, with a touch of a button, our database will be in our CRM. I can literally send out 7,000 mailers in a matter of like 2 minutes. I can have it ready to go and know that they're being sent out 2 weeks from now. So just systemizing that process on the front end, systemizing the process on the back end so that it all flows together and that it can literally take whatever we throw at it. That's the whole goal is so that if we throw another 3,000 pads, we won't implode. We want to be able to build it so robust that if we decide we want to go to 20,000 lots, it can manage it, it can handle it. So just lots of little things, even our website, having, instead of individual websites for each property that we own, we're building right now a very comprehensive, primary company website that will have subsites for every single park that we own, but it'll also have an app built into where our managers can go around and take a picture of any of the available units that we're selling. But we have a lot of new homes that we bring into our communities. Sure. We have a home sales program. They can take pictures of them and literally, with a click of a button, plug that up into our website with a description and all that, so that literally it's live. That home's available for sale on our website, which then plugs into Craigslist, ads posts from there, and it's just automating those processes so that it's easier to maintain and keep our thumb on what's going on. So
that's amazing.
Again, I was all over the place there, but I mean, there's lots of stuff, lots of little things. That has to be done.
It sounds like you're growing responsibly, you're systematizing your business, you're automating everything so that your business can grow responsibly and that you don't implode. I mean, I think a lot of our listeners out there, especially the ones that have already started, are just, those that are ramping up their business are wondering, okay, so how do I grow responsibly? How do I keep on like expanding my business and yet not imploding? And that, I mean, everything you gave there, I mean, start CRM, start just like taking the steps to systematize.
Well, I think the goal with us is, ideally, let's say we're 2.5 years into our goal, and let's say we've got 4,000 lots under ownership. I mean, that's a pretty big number, especially being that most of our average size properties that we're buying are between 80 and 120 spaces in size. So that's a lot of properties. But, my goal would be to, like, I've got hobbies, I've got other things that I'm involved in. I do a lot of charitable endeavors. My other two partners, very much the same. They're involved in a lot of things. And so it's not just all business, right? Like there's other things that we spend our time. I mean, my family, I've got 2 young kids. And so, I like life-work balance. And so I like to be able to build something big, but also maintain that life-work balance to where I can, spend time with my wife and kids and travel and step away for 2 weeks without the company falling apart when we do step away. And if the 3 of us want to step away at the same time, knowing that we've got the people in place that know the processes, know the procedures, and literally things keep plugging along as we were there. And we could step back in 2 weeks later and the company's even more profitable than what it was before we left. So that's kind of the plan. That's the plan. I mean, isn't that really the reason why we all start businesses? Is so that it can buy us freedom. And so I like the monetary goals, but also I like the idea of buying myself more time as well, because we only have so much time in a day. And just like you guys, I run out of time every day. I'm like, oh gosh, it's already like 5 or 6 o'clock, and where did the day go? Exactly. So we're trying to solve that problem. I can't add more hours to the day, but we can run our business more efficiently.
Well, you just touched on a subject that we love to ask about. What is your big why?
Yeah. So first and foremost is my family, being able to spend as much time as I so choose with my wife and my kids. I've got 2 really young sons. One's 9 months and the other one is 3.5 years old. And so I'm just starting that journey in my life, and they are my big number one why. the second, I've got multiple, parts of my why. Another big part of my why is just, I enjoy giving back, and I really, I enjoy growing a company that fosters growth from within. So like a lot of the people that work for us now, a lot of our managers, we lend the ability for them to make a better life for themselves. And so we give lots of opportunity for growth within. And it's just pretty cool watching that culture kind of cultivate throughout our different parks that we currently own now. And I really want to see that scale. For example, one of our team leader now, so we have a guy that, some people would probably call that position like a regional director, but he is literally in charge of, he oversees all the on-site property managers at every single community that we currently own. Well, he, for the past 2.5 years, has been the full-time maintenance guy in one of the parks that we own in Richmond, Virginia. He worked there when we bought it, 2 years ago. He had been working there for like 15 years. Really sharp guy. He's about my age. His grandfather's our manager in that park. His grandfather's in his 70s. And we just got to know this guy really well. And he saves us so much money. Like, he really treats our money like his own. And we watched that, we saw that, and we kind of paid attention. And he's really good with technology. He's really good with people. He communicates really well. And we just promoted him like 3 months ago to, we call it, team leader. And so he's in charge of 11 different parks right now. Wow. And I think that's really, for him, it's like, he's literally getting out from underneath this maintenance job that he's had for, like, that's all he knows. He literally lives in this park. And his family lives in the park. He makes $24,000 a year, which isn't a lot of money. And we just gave him a raise he makes $40,000 a year now. And there's a ton of incentives for him to make a lot more than that. And he's happy as can be. He treats our money like his own. But he also knows his business really well, because he's literally lived and worked in that park for, I think, like 17 years, wow. 17 or 18 years. So that's a recent case that we've just promoted from within. And he's super happy. And I want to do that more often. There's a couple other, like, we've got a sales rock star. It's a husband and wife team at one of our parks in Alabama. They're just kicking butt. And we're actually sending a professional sales consultant that specializes in our niche out there in 2 weeks to spend 3 days with them, so that we can build our new and used home sales program, like actually formalize it more than what it is today. And we're actually sending them to that park because I really want Frank and Jennifer, the managers there. I think they're the ones that will actually help us scale that same sales program throughout our other communities. They don't know it yet, but I'm sending them to that park for that reason, because I see that there's a lot of opportunity with them, and they want to grow. They like working for the company. And I think there's bigger and better things out there for them, because they've really proven themselves. So it'll be exciting when the day comes. I hope that day comes where I can promote them to, regional sales director, and literally oversee the sales program in all the communities that we currently own. So things like that makes me feel good, knowing that we are cultivating from within, and that we're giving people opportunities that they didn't even know would potentially even exist. Because our industry is very behind the times. It's very antiquated. And most managers in parks just aren't respected. I mean, if you ever meet other park owners, you'll find that most of them, just at least the ones that we buy, most of the people that are the managers in those parks, they're just kind of looked down upon. They're not respected. They're just another body in there collecting rent. And there's not really, they're given responsibility, but they're not respected for the responsibilities that they have. And so we're trying to really change that industry and change the perception of the industry around, and just treat people right. Because I really think that trickles down. I mean, we treat our employees right. They treat their residents right. A lot of these places they're families that form in these communities. So you got the on-site manager, and how they treat their residents has a direct relation to how much people enjoy living in that community, and how responsible they are about even paying their rent. I mean, seriously, and how long they live there. Do they renew their lease? They stay there for multiple years. And so we're trying to build that culture from up top and have it trickle all the way down. So
yeah, it's huge, because they're basically, they're the first entry to you.
Absolutely.
And that's just a huge point.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Amazing point.
And I love the fact that, yes, your main why is family, but it sounds like you treat your employees like family as well.
Yeah, you have to. Grow. Really, I feed my family. They help me feed my family, So, they really are part of the family. They are part of my family, because without them, I wouldn't be feeding my family. It all kind of intertwines together. And so my third big why is, I'm involved in a couple of charitable endeavors outside of my business. And I love, one of my big hobbies is cycling. I love riding bikes. I do a lot of long distance rides, and I do a lot of charitable endeavors through my bike riding. So I have an event I put on every year that goes to Key West. We raise, $25,000, $30,000 every year. And we feed a bunch of thousands of local families here in the Tampa Bay area over Christmas and give gifts to children. And it's really cool. And I'd love to have the ability to do more events like that, to where I can kind of grow my charitable endeavors. And
That's incredible.
Growing this business will allow me the freedom to do that, to put on more events like that each and every year. Right now, that event I put on takes a lot of my time up. I don't really have the ability to like hire a director or anything like that. But if at a certain point I will, and I would love to start more events like this throughout the country, and would love to grow that from $30,000 a year of giving to, $3 million a year. So, and I think that this business will allow me to get to that point.
That makes my heart happy. Yeah. Wow. Goals. I love it. Wow.
Just amazing. And we definitely, you give a link out to that would be great. So people know how to find it when it does come around. So please do.
Yeah, we'll do. It's called the 72 Hours to Key West. It's a 280 mile bike ride over 3 days. Yeah, it's pretty intense, but
that's crazy. That's awesome.
It's fun.
So we know your big goal right now, 5 years, 1,000 pads. What's the end game? Where do you want to?
Good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I honestly don't know. I can tell you that, our current fund structure, we buy with the idea of 10 years. And so all the investors that are involved in us right now, our passive investors, our limited partners, we speak to a 10-year goal. And at the end of 10 years, this is just with this first fund, that at the end of 10 years, we'll take a look at where we're at. We'll kind of poll all of our limited partners. And at that point, hopefully they'll have all their initial capital back, and many years prior to that, but we'll kind of poll them and see what their thoughts are. Do we continue just maintain the cash flow? We've got the infrastructure in place. It really shouldn't take that much more energy to just continue on, or do we divest of those assets? And I think there's going to be multiple points of times like that, because we're going to have different funds along the way. This fund that we have, basically, we launched it in March of this year, and we can actively raise capital inside this fund for 1 year, for 12 months. And so there will be fund number 2, fund number 3, and fund number 4. And I don't know, I'd say that there's a 10-year horizon of each one. And I do think that at some point in time, there will be a point where I probably want to step back a little bit. I don't know when that is, though. I really enjoy what I do. So to give you guys kind of like the end goal, it's really challenging for me because I really like it. I don't look at it as work every day. I don't wake up on Monday morning upset about, the weekend's over or anything like that. Cause I'm excited to go in and work with my partners and, and work with our residents and all of our employees. And, so I don't know. I don't have that answer because I don't know. Huh. It's like, I'm going to work until I have that answer, but it's just not here yet. It's not in my brain.
I love it.
Also, sort of following that mindset, another question we like to ask is about, how you start your day. Do you have a morning routine? I know you're big into health and fitness, but do you have a morning routine? Do you start your day with ...
Yeah, I can tell you that I've got a structured morning routine like 4 days out of the week. And that is, I wake up really early in the morning. Like this morning, I woke up at 4:00 and I go on there's a group bike ride I go do in the morning. I ride like 45 miles. And I basically have 2 young kids. So like our 9-month-old wakes up at 6 a.m. Like he's like set, like clockwork, 6 a.m. So in order to make it fair for my wife, I make sure that whatever I do in the morning, that I get back home to help with the kids. And so the other mornings I don't work out, there are 3 days a week I don't do any kind of exercise or workout. I literally I wake up at 6 a.m. and I normally it's a kids type of thing. Like I don't really have that much alone time those 3 days a week. It's mealy family time, getting the kids ready to go to school and all that. So I wish I had a better answer for you. Like I go meditate outside or,
no, that's a great answer.
That's a real life answer right there. Exactly. We have 2 young kids too.
Okay. So yeah, and in fact, most of the time I'm pretty wiped out from the day before. Like today I'll go to sleep pretty early, and tomorrow, like I need every bit of my sleep until 6 a.m. Like I won't wake up earlier than that because I'll be so wiped out from waking up at 4 a.m. this morning. So, it's the kid morning.
Yeah. Love it.
That's a smart way to do it. Do it 4 days and 3 days off. I mean, I know,
Yep.
I know every day the only times I get to exercise, cause again, we have young kids, we have a 11-month-old and a 3-year-old.
Oh, you guys are right in the same path.
Right there. Anytime I want to exercise, I have to wake up at 4:30. So anytime that 4:30 mark passes, I'm like, okay, I'm sleeping in until 6. It's not happening. So I'm gonna catch up on the sleep.
That's right.
And then
I almost didn't get up this morning. I hit the snooze once, and it's still not normal for me to wake up that early. It doesn't happen automatically for me at all.
You're also speaking to 2 former bartenders. So
okay, you get it.
4 a.m. Go to bed at 6 a.m. So it changes a lot.
It's funny. My brain just works better at night for some reason. I don't even know what it is. And I go to bed at a normal time, and I wake up early in the morning, but I have my best thoughts and my best time in the evenings from like 9 to like 11. And normally my wife goes to bed a couple of days like before I do. And so I have like a couple nights where I'm like, put my laptop and just, get some work done. And like my brain, for some reason, it's on fire, like from like 9 to 11. Yeah. And I don't know if it's basically a carryover from like bartending days or what. I'm not sure, but
we'll say yes, because everybody's the same way.
Yeah. Okay.
We're both the same way.
So if you had one actual step for someone who is brand new to real estate, that this could be something that they could take away and start today, and it can be a small step, it can be a big step, just something to give them an actual step to start on their journey to just get started in real estate.
I think action's obviously the big thing, right? And so but I think before even action is really the first thing. So I'm going to give you 2 things. So action is the biggest, right? Because nothing happens without action. But after you're ready to take action, you're taking action, right? Now you need to focus on something. I really think that it's important for anyone that's getting started. Like there's a million different ways out there that you can make money in real estate. There really are. I mean, you guys have a house moving business. I mean, that's crazy. That's such a unique thing. And you guys make a killing moving homes. I buy mobile home parks. There's other people that buy you guys buy multifamily, or fix and flip homes, wholesale homes, buy notes, whatever. Pick one. Research a couple, get to know a couple, take action, actually read some books, watch some YouTube videos, go to some courses. But when it comes time for you to actually put that action really in place and put some fuel behind it, pick a focus. Just forget about all the other mess, put some blinders on, just because you know what, at the end of the day, you can make money at all of them. It's just going to take time. There's no one easy way. There's no like one secret pill that's going to get you there faster. Every single one's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of frustration. It's going to be a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, lots of ups and downs, lots of emotional roller coasters. Just pick one though, and pick one and focus on it until you give yourself a reasonable amount of time. Like give yourself an entire year. Say, I'm going to spend all my energy on this one niche for an entire year. And then see what happens. And I'm not going to if anyone brings me a deal over here in single family homes, anyone brings me a deal with, a self-storage facility, I'm just going to ignore it because I don't want to divert my focus. I think that's so important. I mean, that works for me really well. And that's why we only focus on mobile home parks. And maybe it's not smart to some. They're like, you should diversify. But I really want to be the best at what we do. And I think if you can do that, then you can somewhat shield and protect yourselves even when times are bad. Because if you know more than everyone else in that niche, then you should be able to kind of plan and weather storms a little better than if your focus is diverted amongst 4 different asset classes. Like I buy single family homes and I buy self-storage facilities. I also develop this, that, or the other. I mean, it's really hard to do all 3 of those, especially become an expert at all 3 of them. So it'd be almost like you guys, like right now, you're kicking butt doing the apartment thing, and I know that it was a family business with your home moving business. It was a family business, generational business. So like it was almost like not a plug and play system, because you guys are obviously the ones that are helping kind of carry the torch. But it'd be like you saying, "Hey, Kevin, we just bought a 94 unit apartment complex, but someone just told me about this awesome way to make money moving houses. I'm going to start looking at doing that."
Yeah,
I'd be like, okay. Good luck. Why don't you just focus on buying multifamily property because you're really good at it already. Yep. Why divert your focus? Because that's going to take a lot of energy to go figure out how to move houses or lift houses.
Well, what you need to do is just tell us no, don't.
Yes.
Put the blinders on.
That's it.
Keep with
it's one of the hardest things, but you're absolutely right. And you're absolutely right. We talked about that earlier. It's just where focus goes, energy flows, and it's completely right.
Yeah. So. At some point you can diversify, right? I mean, at some point you know when it's right, but don't do it in the very beginning. Don't try to be like the guy that does a little bit of everything in the beginning, because you're going to be really frustrated and you're probably not going to have made it very far come that year or come
and
the
you'll be
2-year
average
mark.
invested pretty much everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, we were. Hey, it strikes a chord. We were just talking about that.
And I think being entrepreneurs, we all have that shiny object syndrome. I think it's just ingrained in our brains, but you just have to know how to control it, right? And how tell it to shut up and like, leave me alone. I'm not going to pay attention to you today. I'm going to focus on the task or the niche at hand.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was all so amazing. So before we let you go, what are some words to live by?
Words to live by. I think that you guys asked me what my why was, and I think that is the most important part prior to you even thinking about starting a business, prior to you starting a family, getting married, whatever you're doing in your adult life, like figure out what your why is, like why you're doing what you're doing. Why do you wake up the next day? And think really deeply and take a lot of time to figure out what that is. And it can change, but that's like your life goal, right? Like your why is like your life goal. Like you guys kind of ask about like business goals and things like that, but your why is really your life goal. And that's what everything else should revolve around. So I think it's really important for people to get to the core of who they are and where they want to be. And they need to figure out that why, because that's going to really lead and direct you the rest of your life. And so that would be some words I can kind of leave everyone with. I think that's vitally important. In fact, my two partners and I, we just, we've been struggling with, we all are very aligned in what our whys are, individual whys. And we're all very aligned with where we want to grow our business and how we want to grow our business. We all believe so much in our employees and from cultivating within and building this awesome company culture. And it's really changing the perception of mobile home parks. We all believe in that so dearly. But we struggled to find, to actually put it in a very short, simple sentence as far as like a mission statement is concerned. And we literally, but it was so like, even though we all were aligned, we could talk about it. We couldn't figure out how to put it in a, very short, concise mission statement. And we literally just spent on Sunday, we got together at like 7 a.m. and spent like 6 or 7 hours together to do it. And I think 2 weeks prior to that, we spent another like 7 or 8 hours on the Sunday when literally no interruptions were happening, no emails were going off on Sunday. And, but it's so very important because that's going to drive our company. We have our goals on, but we need something that we can look at all the time. Like that's like our company's why, like our mission statement is our company why. And that will help direct not only us, but also direct our investors, direct our employees, direct our residents, everyone. Like they'll get to know what we really stand for and they'll either make a decision, do they want to be a part of it or not? And I think that's so very important. That way that everyone in our organization then at that point in time will be truly aligned on the same path. And that is our company why. And so again, whether it's your company why or your own personal why, figure that out. Figure that out now before you go any further.
Yeah. Wow. I can't wait to hear what that big company mission statement.
Yeah. I'll let you know as soon as we got, that's funny. We have it. I'm not even going to give it yet because we have to, there's like one part of the sentence. I'm like, that just doesn't, it doesn't flow perfect yet. And so we're agonizing over it. It's on our board right now. And like, I went in yesterday and I'm like, God, like I know that sounds so right, but there's just something a little bit wrong with it. So we're still tweaking it, but it's crazy how long, like we went through multiple exercises. And it's amazing how long this has taken us to actually get it down on paper. But I think it's so important. It's so important.
Have it right.
Yeah, so but it sticks with you forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
absolutely.
Well, Kevin, we so appreciate you being on the show today. Before we let you go, we would love for you to tell the guests about the 2 podcasts you have out, and
sure,
it would be the best place to reach if they want to learn more about business.
So I've got 2 podcasts. One is called Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow, and that's a weekly show where most of the shows are interviews. I do have probably about 30 or 40 that are just me, but it revolves on commercial real estate investing actually, and interview people from all different asset types. Multifamily, self-storage, office, retail. We run the gamut of commercial real estate investing. And then I have a second podcast, which is called the Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast. And as you might guess, we talk about mobile home parks. So that is all we talk about is mobile home parks, which is kind of interesting, guys, because that show gets like, I'm blown away. It's such a niche show and you wouldn't even believe it, but we get like 20,000 downloads a month on that. So there's that many people out there that are interested in mobile home parks. So wow. It's pretty cool. So, and then the best place to reach me is just my website, kevinbupp.com. you can find me there. Shoot me a personal email. Even my personal email address is kevin@kevinbupp.com. So I'm pretty easy to find. You shouldn't have a hard time.
That's great.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on our show, Kevin.
Thank you guys.
Enlightening.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
Well, this is Jason and Peely with the REI Foundation podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We're grateful for you for listening, and we are grateful for Kevin for being on the show. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning into the REI Foundation podcast. Check back next time for more awesome tips and strategies to launch your new you in real estate.